3000.
What is doing? I hate doing it, but I'd like everyone to like, subscribe, share the content. Sharing is really important. If you like the content that I'm bringing you with the 3000 podcast, you want to help us grow, make sure you do all that stuff. Follow us on Instagram, like, subscribe, share, do all that good shit. Now to the episode.
1000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by Ollie Geale from you, but also from Dan Does Footy.
Yes.
How do people know you?
Well, traditionally, they would know me as Geale. Where else would they know me from? The pub.
The pub, yeah.
Any sort of trivia night within the Fitzroy area.
Yeah.
You probably know me from there.
Yeah.
Southern Tasmanian Dancer Stedfords. Back in the day, you'd probably know me from, if you sort of frequent those at the Derwent Entertainment Centre. But yeah.
Derwent Entertainment Centre.
Oh, God, yeah.
Right.
Now it's the Ants Nest for the Jack Jumpers.
And now, oh, right.
Yeah.
Man, fuck, they were successful straight away, weren't they? Second season?
Yeah, we made the grand final in the first year and then won it the next, which
Yeah.
is pretty crazy. And then no playoffs this year.
You had to have some growing pains at some stage.
Well, I didn't think we did. I thought we were just going to go like that forever.
Change of coach too?
No.
no, same
We've
coach,
had
same-
Scott Roth the whole time.
Right.
Our biggest problem this year was we, as is the case in a sport that there's a bigger league, when you're too good, you get that call up. So Jack McVeigh was unbelievable for us, gets the call up to go to the NBA. You're not going to do that.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
it
So
happens. You see it in the
those
A-League
things.
a bit as well.
Oh,
where They
absolutely.
just, you're like, oh, this guy's cool, he's playing for City, great. And then they go to New York City or whatever. It happens.
Yeah, no brainer as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's good fun.
Good times, man. Yeah, the Jack Jumpers. I think I'm trying to think back to a footy team or a national team that won in their second year. I think the Storm might have.
Yeah, I have heard that. I know nothing about the NRL, but I do know
You
that.
look like you're a Storm fan wearing
that's
the
true.
Vikings.
That's true. But yeah, it's pretty rare. So I would imagine it'll be a lot harder when the Devils come in, but I'm pretty convinced that we've got this expectation that immediately we're not going to do what the Giants or the Suns have done. Like the Giants have, they've made a grand final. That's pretty good. But I think the expectation in a place like Tassie is we do it and we do it well.
Is there an issue with the stadium? Is that a thing?
Oh, I've got no idea what's going on with that. It's so confusing. So essentially the rule is to get our license, we would have to build a stadium with a roof. I've already got a problem with that because it's like 1 degree colder in Hobart than Melbourne at any given time.
Do you reckon it is?
Well, firstly, it's the driest capital city in Australia.
Right.
So don't worry about that. And it's a winter sport. Sorry, I mean, like my Minnesota Vikings, we've got a roof, but that's because it's about minus 30 degrees and the stadium, you wouldn't be able to play on it.
Yeah, some of the football stadiums in the US, they have to sweep the
Exactly
snow
right.
off
Like
so
a
you can see the
Buffalo or
lines.
something like that. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's not going to be like that. It's just a little bit cold. But anyway, it's going to cost, I might even be going unders when I say 30 million. I think it's...
No, it's got to be more.
Yeah,
than
it's
that.
got to be... I can't
It's got to be
remember
like
the figure.
300 million or something.
Yeah, I think that's probably where we're looking. But I think it's a no-brainer just because, Tassie for me is at a real sweet spot where the secret's out a bit. People have probably stopped taking the piss and realised it's actually pretty cool, right? And COVID was a real boost, I felt like, for people that have moved away to Melbourne and then gone, oh, I don't want to be here, so I'm going to move back. I'm going to move home and bring a bit of Melbourne, a bit of Sydney, whatever it might be, back to
I
Hobart.
had some friends who did the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And I just feel like right now's the time to, I know it's going to cost a lot, but I don't want to be, to not make the most of this time where we could really leapfrog and make the most of it,
Because I think a lot of times when you get big touring artists, when it comes from a musical standpoint, they do the mainland cities. But if you had a place there where you could have Pink or I don't know, Post Malone or whatever, it might be a thing.
Well, the biggest, I think, like the best example of that right now was, quite recently, obviously Taylor Swift came to town, and it's like, oh, she's not going to Hobart, and what an amazing thing for the economy and for tourism.
Yeah.
You know, to go, maybe she wouldn't, but, you know, like it's going to maybe make it a lot easier to do so, you know? So I would love to see it happen. So just get it over the line and make it happen.
What's the capacity look like?
I think maybe this is why I had 30 in my mind. I think it's 30,000.
Which is, you'd feel that, no worries.
Oh, absolutely. The only fear
you
there
bring the
is...
mic down a bit, just so it doesn't cover your face.
Absolutely,
So
I
you
can.
yeah, just like that.
It's like I've never used one before. How embarrassing.
No, I just thought the way that the camera's coming in, there's probably different angles
Just see
to
my
use.
eyes. What was that? Yeah, so 30,000. My only concern there is that we are just really popular, and we're not going to build two of the stadiums, are we? Like, so maybe do you make it 50,000 to, you know, afford that growth?
But then there's also like that sort of old school EPL thing where this is how big the stadium is, and you got to be in there.
You get in. If you don't, sorry about that.
Punch on out the front.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who knows? I can guarantee you, though, I'll be there on that first game. Will just be amazing.
Yeah.
The atmosphere will be great.
Yeah, man. And it's like a long time coming. But it also kind of leads us into the AFL conundrum of 19 teams. And from what we've realised from expanding from the VFL from when I was a kid to the AFL now, they don't like buys. They don't like uneven numbers, hence Gold Coast and then GWS.
Yep.
So where do you think that's going?
In terms of if there's going to be another team, she's
20. Well, you think they would. They're not going to have 19 for too long.
No, but Tassie was so the obvious
For sure.
decision here. Where else? There's no way. I mean, I personally would love to see Fitzroy come back. I think that'd be unbelievable, but that's just not going to happen. I think maybe a third SA team, possibly. I don't know enough about WA and the Waffle, but the Sandfuls still get, you know, if you go to a Norwood or a Sturt or one of those guys. But I mean, the obvious answer would be incredible to be in the Northern Territory, but whether or not the facilities are there. I mean, you look at, you know, what it's taken to get Tassie over the line, and it might not even happen because if we can't do the stadium, you know. And
they probably would want a stadium with a roof there because it gets too hot.
Exactly right. But I think that would tie a nice bow on the national sport. You know, I just think it makes perfect sense.
I wonder whether they could do something like a central team. You had the West Coast, which sort of represented the West, and they could do something central. So it's like, you know, Adelaide, South Australia up to the Northern Territory.
I think that'd be a great call. And I don't understand when people go, you know, you take Tassie, for example, or if this was the case and there was the Northern Territory, whatever's, people go, oh, no one will want to play there. I'm like, that is such bullshit.
They would.
Like, I would love the opportunities to do that. That would be so unique. Like, it'd be crazy. So, like, I think it'd be great.
Yeah. Or the other thing I was thinking is like a northern thing, so you could sort of represent northern Queensland that kind of moved up to the
That's true. Yeah, no, that'd be a shout. I think you'd probably have to start making sure people go to the Suns games though, and then we can have a look at the rest of the state.
Yeah.
But other than that, but maybe even New Zealand could be a shout. I don't know.
Man, you know I've played footy in New Zealand before.
Really?
So the football club that I used to play for in juniors, South Melbourne District Football Club.
Yeah.
They had a program where every year AFL would take them over, the under-19s team would take them over to New Zealand, and you'd play exhibition games. Dudes were throwing the ball playing the other team because they didn't really know a lot about AFL.
Perfect.
But we did a lot of drinking. We had a lot of fun.
I can imagine.
I came home with a beer bong in my luggage that one of the dudes gave us from one of the teams we played against.
That is hysterical.
I don't know if they still do that program, but it happened for about 5 years. The under-19s went every year.
Well, I know sort of what you're talking about. I've had similar...
It's like a grassroots thing.
Absolutely. No, I've had similar stories like when I went on a dance trip to Singapore at my private school. Similar vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's the exact same as going out and finding a bong after a footy trip in New Zealand.
It was a beer bong, not a bong.
Oh, but sorry, beer bong. Yeah, I heard it all before.
But yeah, New Zealand would be great. In the A-League, they just got their second team.
Oh, and they're killing it.
They finished top of ladder first year.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I don't know if that says something about the strength of the A-League or it says something about they got the job right. Well, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think probably the state of the A-League, though, goes a long way if you've got a sellout crowd. Like, honestly, and I don't know what you do with the A-League now, but it's not where it needs to be.
I think they expanded in Melbourne too quickly. 3 teams wasn't ready, you know.
Western United still don't feel ready. Like, I know that they've just, you know, I think this is the first season that they're out in town at their stadium. but it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like a A-League,
No.
ground.
I think
And
they looked at Western Sydney and how that was successful, and
Yeah.
they tried West Melbourne with a whole, and it probably will work and be very popular.
well, I suppose one day, right? But it doesn't. The West doesn't really have a massive identity right now. Like I think maybe even Geelong would have just been made the most sense to me.
But as far as growth areas, though, that's definitely where the people
100%.
are. And, you look at how big like that Point Cook train station is and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's out of control.
Yeah, it won't be long until there's no difference between Melbourne and Geelong, that whole area.
It's all happening, yeah. And then when like you said, you don't know much about the NRL, but they've got a Perth team. They skipped South Australia, went straight to Perth.
Yeah. Well, Perth used to have a team, did they?
I think South Australia did for a while. Yes, the South Australia Rams, I think.
The Rams, they did. I find that interesting. I mean, I've got one friend in Perth, and bizarrely, he is a rugby fan. So there you go.
Well, because they had a rugby union team.
Okay.
So they might have had a bit of felt out that this will work.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing from that, as like a sort of Sydney to South Melbourne to Sydney and like Fitzroy to Brisbane.
Yeah.
They've
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, the Bears, which have been gone for 20-something years.
So who were the Bears?
I think they were like a North Sydney or something.
Yeah, okay. Brilliant. I did see the reaction of like the Bears fans that are still like, they've been convinced that they're coming back. They're like, yeah, but it's in Perth. I went, don't care. Don't care. I'm all about it.
The red and black is back.
That's good. Good on him.
Yeah. Did you see? This is kind of funny, man. That in the gay culture, a bear is a big.
I tell you what, if I get a bit of a beard on you, and I could be a couple of bears in the woods.
But apparently, and I don't know, this is someone in a group thread sent me that the Perth Bears, in like the gay community, got a lot of new followers because they were the Bears of Perth or something.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, don't you just love life sometimes? You just go, just the simple stuff. I love it. Good on him.
I love that someone would have gone onto the Instagram, seen a whole bunch of hairy guys with their shirts off and gone, yeah, that's the rugby league team.
Yeah, or now I like the idea of like you've gone to Perth on a work trip and you've opened Grindr, or you've gone on Google and you've gone Perth Bears, where to find them. You go, I mean, it's not what I was looking for, but it's still pretty good. Brilliant.
For sure, man. Here's a funny one. With the old AFL expansion, I've only seen this on YouTube, and there's a doco that goes for about 25 minutes. There was a push, I think it was in the mid-'80s, to get a USA AFL team. Have you seen that?
Cross, no.
Man, they had a whole schedule worked out that they would play all their away games in a row, and then they would play all their home games in a row. And they were trying to break into the the American market, and they were going to source half the players from AFL clubs, or VFL it might have been then, and half of them from American football clubs. And the guy had the whole plan worked out.
Where were they going to be based?
In LA,
West Coast.
and they were going to be called the American, like it was around about when Crocodile Dundee was a thing, and they were going to be called the USA Crocodiles, I think. And in the plan, the guy's like, and when they turn up to games, they're going to wear Dryzerbone coats and a Kubras.
Oh, well, you know what? You lost me at the start and then you found me towards the end. I'm all about that now. That would be hilarious.
It was a proper pitch.
That 6'9" basketballer rolling around in a Dryzerbone. Oh, yeah, what's up? How good would that be?
Good day.
Yeah, good day. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, bring that on. I tell you what, I've done, when I lived in the UK for a few years and had a footy show there, and we focused a lot on grassroots European Aussie rules. Mm-hmm. It opened my mind and just the doors to this like subculture of Aussie rules in different countries. It is incredible. And the USA in particular, I went to a few games when I was there, like Orange County versus whoever.
Are they all expats mostly?
No, well, the traditional rule is, and I'm sure that this would, change depending on where you are, but certainly in London, the rule is like you had to have 6 players that weren't Australian. Okay. So it was a fair mix in the end. And it's bloody cool. And we talked to some amazing people. Someone, I want to say they were either from the Polish, like the Warsaw Devils, maybe. I want to say, and they was driving into the Ukraine in the footy team bus and bringing back refugees and they were staying at the footy club.
Wow.
Bizarre. And then, guys who have, met the love of their life in Iceland and have moved there and gone, well, I'm missing footy, so I'm going to start a team. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's like it happens everywhere. I'm sure there's AFL competitions everywhere, but it's just very, very small in some places.
Oh, yeah. No, this is not even the NWFA in Tasmania. Like, this is just fun, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
there's something to it. And I think a lot of clubs help, like AFL clubs help out these teams. So I think a mate of mine, in LA, I might have got this wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Orange County team was sponsored by the Giants, so they would send all their old...
They're orange.
Exactly. There you go. You get it.
Yeah.
And they'd send all their old gear over.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is good to see that sort of stuff happen all sorts of different places. And, like, I think that they want the game to grow internationally, but it is hard because it's so Aussie, it's so Melbourne-centric, you know what I mean? And a lot of places just don't get it.
No, I think probably if it was going to happen, COVID was the time for it to happen when we were the only, professional sport on in the world at one point. That's actually where my job came from. So I hosted the Aussie Rules show on BT Sport, which is the British equivalent of Fox. Uh-huh. And I just said to them, like, hey, Fat Bob in Hull is desperate.
Fat Bob.
You can picture him. He's sitting in his front yard having an ice bath in his wheelie bin, and he's desperate for a punt, and he's desperate to watch something. And
his Ladbrokes account is burning a hole in his pocket.
But they need something, and luckily BT Sport already had the rights to the game, so I think they made it. I think maybe you watch like 5 games, 6 games around. And I said, and the time difference worked out really well. So if it was a night game and it was on at like 9 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. So it was pretty good.
Punt on.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, let's do a show. And it was so much fun. Like, the pressure was off big time because a lot of people obviously didn't know what they were watching. So I'd stuff up all the time. I was calling Jack Revolt, Nick Revolt.
Really? That's pretty rudimental.
Oh, absolutely. But then the best was like having your production team who were really getting into it but have never really watched it. And they'll ask you a question. And when I don't know, deep down I don't know, but I'm going to have a go at this and I'll answer it with... the chin up, and you just go, no, what happened there was, and you just make up some, rule, whatever. So, it was good fun. Loved it.
And then after COVID, then what happens? You got a taste for that, but you're like, and you move back here.
Well, I felt like the most logical step that made the most sense was to leave London and move to Bermuda.
Why not?
I just did that.
It's got a good triangle.
Yeah, exactly right. No, I was doing some work for Optus as well at the time, and we had the Euros to look forward to, the big soccer tournament, and it was delayed a year. And I knew I really wanted to do it, not just because it was, pretty consistent work for the month, but also like a great thing for the CV and awesome experience. So I had to leave England. My visa was done, but couldn't come back home. Maybe could just get back, but then I certainly wouldn't be allowed to leave again if I wanted to go to work at this tournament. So I was just looking at countries semi-nearby that, were taking people, and Bermuda were one of like 8 countries that had the digital nomad visa, which essentially meant we need people to come and spend money but not take jobs away because there's not many at the moment with COVID. And so I moved to Bermuda. It was like a direct flight, 7 hours, perfect. And I did the Aussie Rules show from there. Wow. It was ridiculous. It was so much fun and so stupid at the exact same time. Like, it was such a bizarre world we lived in. So, like, as soon as I arrived, I was like, to my production staff, I said, look, I don't know anyone here, but give me 5 days. I'll find a videographer that can do this. And just going to the pubs, going to the bars, whatever, and just asking around, and someone knew someone who filmed video clips in Bermuda, and she was like, yeah, I mean, I'll do it. But trying to explain to a Bermudan that we're doing an Aussie Rules show about a sport in Australia for British TV, but filming it in Bermuda was just bizarre. And we got to do that for a whole year. It was, well, certainly for the whole AFL season.
Did you play into the fact that you weren't in England?
There wasn't much I could do about it. Yeah, when it's 30 degrees sunny and I've got a Hawaiian shirt on, yeah, you just have to go, this is the world we live in. You know,
yeah.
like it wouldn't work now. I think it would be too bizarre, but during that period of time,
Anything
it was
goes.
like, well, yeah, what do you want from us? Like, that's just the reality.
Yeah, and man, it was such a crazy time, but it feels so long ago now, but it wasn't that long ago. But yeah,
No way. Yeah.
everything was weird for quite a while.
Oh, it still occasionally feels weird. But yeah, you look back, especially if, you know, you go on Facebook memories or whatever on this day and you go, what were we doing? It was just, things became reality really quickly. You know, it was a real shift.
So they let you back into the UK after that, or you come back here?
Yeah, came back to the UK, did the Euros, and then still couldn't come back to Australia for like, I reckon it was about 8 months. So then I was getting a bit sick of it. So I didn't want to commit to living anywhere.
What do they do with a visa in that situation? They just say you can't be in London, or you can't be in England, but you can't come back to Australia.
Yeah, so for the best of my knowledge, I could extend it because this was an emergency. But essentially what would happen was the second that Australia opened their borders back up, I would have to leave. And I didn't want to run that risk because let's just say that we opened our borders up before this tournament. I would have just been hanging out in the UK for no real reason. And then the thing that I wanted to work at happened and then I'd have to leave. So no, I then just did like all the 90 days tourist visas in like Spain, US. It was great. And then just before Christmas, it looked like, yep, we're good to go. So yeah, managed to get back.
You got back here.
Got back.
And then you got back here and you're like, well, what footy
This
show
shit.
can I do?
Yeah. What the hell am I doing? You know, sometimes I'm on the train on the way to work and I go, I remember when I was having a mojito at breakfast and I had dreadlocks and I was, you know, walking a blind woman's dog to the jetty and then I was fishing and that was my day. I look like an idiot now. When I got back, it took me like, I want to say like 2 years to really settle in. Like it took a lot longer just because it was actually not from an arrogant point, but I came back with a far stronger CV than when I left Australia in the first place. And that was the big thing. I wanted to have this experience and have fun, but I really wanted to challenge myself overseas. And I was so happy that I did it. And it wasn't that I was surprised, but I was a bit like, well, what was the point of all that? I can't get a gig anywhere. Yeah. Like it was really, really, really frustrating. You know, maybe a couple things here and there, but certainly nothing consistent. So it took a hell of a lot. I mean, we were talking, I was like, right, let's do trivia nights. Like, brilliant. Like, good thing was I was still in kind of overseas mode and mindset. So like, I just would do anything and that was fun. It was part of the journey. But yeah, it's weird because you try and explain what you've done overseas, and if people haven't heard of the channels, it's like it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. It's, you know, so it took a fair while to get things moving.
And then you jump on Instagram, you're like, I'm going to have to sort of build my own platform, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It if I wasn't. If I was good at other things, I would have just left it behind. I think that was the moment that I could have gone, this is dragging me down. But this is the only thing I like doing and the only thing I'm half decent at. So I just didn't have any plans on not doing this. So it was just, you know, buying your time and you know, working, you know, where you can. And I don't want to give this sort of stuff up. And it's pretty normal that you'll go through that. Yeah. You know, fluctuation.
And the other thing is, you'd been away for how many years?
I think it was like 5.
All right. And before that, you're in Hobart or Tassie?
So I spent a couple of years in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I left to the UK from Melbourne. I had like 2 years in Adelaide, and then I had all my life up until that point in Tassie.
So then you also got to come back and kind of build your Melbourne network. You know what I mean?
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you weren't an ex-footy player,
mate. One thing I would say is that I probably wasn't far off just maybe leaving sport for the moment and exploring I've got probably far greater interests in film, comedy, writing, art, music, all that than I do with sport, but I had just found a bit of momentum with it. But Christ, it is so hard when you're not a player. Like, even my co-host Dan would admit that, like, you know, don't get me wrong, he has worked so ridiculously hard post-football to do this. It's not even funny. He's the hardest working person I've ever known, and I'm in awe of the way he's done it. But the 20-odd games he's played is a platform. It's a starting point, and it gives you that respect, you know. And so if you are any good at it, you know, I think people can hear you out sooner, you know, and a bit quicker. But when you were in the Southern Tasmanian Dance at Stedford and you want to try to talk about football, it's a lot harder.
For sure. But once you get the platform, that becomes something you can lean back on.
True.
I'm not a player. Here's it coming from my dancer Stedford background.
Yes.
And same with Dan, I guess, as he gets more notoriety, he can be like, well, I only played 20 games, so what do I know?
Yes.
And lean into that.
Absolutely. And I think probably the clearest thing to me is that we've stumbled upon something that maybe people don't care anymore, that you've played 300 games. Like, it's all very good and it's impressive and it's fantastic. But realistically, we're fans of a game that we learn when we're a kid, you know?
Look, I don't know Dan personally, but just from following him, I see it's refreshing to see a footy player or an ex-footy player have a sense of humour, because when they're playing, they're obviously not allowed to have too much, you know, they're pretty regulated with what they can say and do. So it's refreshing for someone to come out and be like, well, I don't care, I'm just going to say it.
Oh, mate, I'll get it up now. You're spot on. Don't mind my flip phone.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Bit of a legend. That is so the case. But even Dan, I found this interview of him when he was playing, Dan Gorringe, and he was not funny. Like, he had no personality.
But you weren't allowed to be.
No, you weren't allowed. It was, but if you look at it, I would have thought to myself, like, that bloke will never do something like this, like, ever. Here we go. I'll just show you a second of it.
75th Carlton football arena soon to debut this evening. What does it mean, first and foremost, to be out there playing again?
Yeah, it's massive. I said it yesterday. I was in my jumper that last year I was looking at my AFL career.
It's definitely just what a footy player should say.
Yeah. But and he has just gone, nah, not having that. Like, let's just be real here and go, I've got a good personality, I want to show it.
Yeah, and that's definitely refreshing, I think, from the punter's perspective. They're like, okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he's humorous and he doesn't really care. So that's refreshing. So how did you meet him and how did you guys sort of hook up?
So I was trawling LinkedIn every day, losing my absolute mind, and found a podcast agency that was hiring a casual editor. And they were down the road from where I lived in Prant, so it was perfect. And snagged that and made it pretty clear to them that I actually don't know if they knew too much about my history and the fact that I really wanted to continue the on-screen stuff, but I was definitely a capable editor and had done some producing. And it's like, look, this is where I'm at. I you know, it's not my full-time passion, but I would love to do it. And so did that for might have been 9-10 months, and editing stuff so different to Dan Does Footy. It was hilarious.
Right.
Like wedding podcasts and gym
Wedding podcasts?
Oh yeah.
Like people come into a podcast before their wedding.
Or after it to talk about you know, how they went around the catering and that sort of stuff. So it's very out of my comfort zone. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Oh mate, there's a podcast for everything.
Yeah, wow, okay.
And then I was kind of getting a bit sick of just editing. I just was going, but then I heard Dan had picked this agency to house his product. I was like, this is super exciting. This is exactly what I've needed to kind of revamp my, you know, just have a bit of energy again.
And you didn't know him though?
No, I didn't know him at all. And I was the only producer there, so I was definitely going to be producing it. But as to whether or not he wanted me to speak, who knows, that kind of thing. And we met, and he's like, yeah, I would love you to have a mic and I'll throw to you whenever. And it was going to be very much whenever, once every 15 minutes might ask me a question. But, you know, I sort of we got to know each other in that first episode. It's actually really funny to watch back. And I go, I'm telling him about myself. And he goes, oh, I didn't know you did any of those things. And I was about to start emceeing St Kilda. And he went, what? Oh, right. And probably gave me a little bit of confidence and trust. And then genuinely, I snaked my way in within about 3 weeks. Well, then you couldn't shut me up. I was like, no, this is my show now.
Yeah, but man, I can understand from his point of view. Like, I've always got a different guest to talk to, but if you're just there being a one-man band, it would be fucking hard.
Well, I think this is actually nothing on myself here, but he's lucky to have just someone to talk to, because I think that he probably didn't realise how difficult an hour would be consistently talking. So it's not necessarily that I'm the perfect person for him, but I think he made the right call in being like, no, you can talk as much as you want because I might need the help here, you know? Yeah.
And then so you must have been stoked. You're like, well, you didn't fall into it, but you put yourself in the right place at the right time and you did everything that you to give yourself every opportunity.
Yeah, it felt like maybe the one time in my life that did feel a bit like luck, and that shits me to tears because, you know, when I have, you know, especially growing up in Hobart, not so much my family, because my family have worked in media and my mum still does a breakfast show on the ABC. And so she got it, but a lot of my friends that still live in Tassie, you know, semi-conservative way of thinking would go, it's right place, right time. And I'm going, I don't think you understand how hard I'm trying, and I'm working really hard. But this was the first time that it was like a gift walking through the door, being like, if I played my cards right here, you know. But it's all the work that you do leading up to that moment. Yeah. Because if I was shit, then the reality is I wouldn't be speaking on it.
And it's the thing that's like the old, like I have a DJ background, but it's like when you wanted to get into gigs, you start working at a nightclub and then you can, you know what I mean? So if you want to host a podcast, work in a podcast studio.
Well, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And I was really happy with myself and proud that because I was pretty close to nicking off straight away going, I can physically do this job, but it's not where my passion lies. And I've just come back from 5 years of doing exactly what I've always dreamt of, you know? And so I was proud of myself for sticking that year out to sort of do the hard yards and be rewarded at the end, essentially.
So for a while, was he still like, you're still the producer, or how did that sort of play out?
Nah, I reckon he called me producer Ollie like 2 times, and I was like, I hate when people do that. Like, producer, whatever. Like, no, they've got a name. Give them their own identity. Nah, it felt very natural. I don't think we've ever had a discussion about. I think I might have asked him like, am I cutting in too much, or is it? And he's like, no, it's great. And his working persona is so not what I expected, you know, because his videos. He does some stupid stuff and he's very loud, but he's actually just such a crazy, nice, generous person that has just gone, no, you're killing it. I'm really happy with what you're doing. And I think he's also, I don't know, it just impresses me. It shouldn't be like this because everyone should be a nice person and deals and should, you know, speak to you in a nice manner. But it wouldn't have shocked me if he thought, hey, this is Dan Does Footy, not Dan and Ollie, or Ollie Does Footy. I'm just going to need you to pull back here. But he recognised that it was working and people were enjoying it, and he wanted that for me too.
Do you think that he had the idea that it would be as successful as it's become?
It's a good question. I think he probably has that self-confidence to believe that, you know, he can do this. And I think going out on his own anyway and giving it a crack, I'm sure deep down you must have a rough idea of where you want to take it. But some of the numbers and things people have said to us, you know, I think it's DDF is the business now and it's the fastest growing sports media company in Australian history.
Huge.
I might have mucked up one word there, but it's something like that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think Instagram's 500,000 followers or something?
Yeah, and it was 40,000 when going into the first episode.
Right. So how quickly has that happened?
Well, this is only in the second year.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so he is just, it's crazy.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's so cool to see people become successful and so quickly. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, but I think for some people probably just think, oh, this guy's come out of nowhere. They don't know all that goes into that stuff. Yeah,
well, especially, I don't know how many people knew of him while playing. You know, he wasn't obviously a big name player. So it definitely feels like that. And I can definitely sense as well this year in particular has had a pretty big climb. Like it's different. It feels different.
Yeah.
Like I hate so much that I'm going to talk about this, but like just the recognised element.
Yep.
And I would never say fame, but that element has gone like that.
Yeah.
You know, I went like finished the season. I went to Tassie for like a month and a half, did a road trip, just talked to, kangaroos the whole time, like didn't do a single thing. And then you come back, game on, and you sensed a real shift.
Yep.
That it's gone up a year. It's pretty cool.
And has the production changed with the success?
So yeah, I think maybe the timeline of the show probably was the biggest thing. So I think Dan knew that he wanted to house it himself, in a studio like the one we're in. But I think it probably happened a bit quicker than he thought. So from all reports, just crunch the numbers, it made sense, stuff it. So we've got our own studio now. I'm full-time with him.
Yeah.
And it's like a proper big boy business. So it's pretty cool. So, like the agency that we're at was fantastic, but, there was limitations on what you could do because obviously there was booking times, with other shows. And then I would then have to set the studio back up for another show and...
And you can't have your own decor because it's got to be kind of
pretty
neutral.
much.
Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, we definitely did have our own set, but it was minimal. It was minimal because, there was a lot of coming in and out. And then there would be moments where players might be in town for something. We'd love to have a chat with them. The only time they can get in was when someone else was using the space. So we're like, let's just go all in here. So, we're based in Richmond now, and we've got a bigger room that we haven't utilised the space to its full potential, so it probably feels the same size as the last one. But I think probably next season we'll start to spend a bit of time and go, okay, cool, so you're there, I'm here, and then what are we going to want to do with all that? Let's build it out and make it a big kind of world. Yeah, we've got like fun ideas. I clearly like a guest spot would be really cool, but I have always envisioned it would be fantastic to, even have one camera at the top of the ceiling that shows how, just shows the space. And if Dan wants to speak to the camera about something, he can get up, walk. There's a camera tracking him and he goes to a completely different part of the room and then it's like a press conference area, whatever it might be. Just build out the world a little bit. But who knows? Who knows?
Has it become that? Does it feel like a job yet? Which isn't perfect. I
don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I definitely know that I sit there on a Sunday night feeling no qualms at all that I'll be working the next day. Like I don't get that Monday-itis situation.
And I guess you get to watch footy and just make little notes and be like, yeah, well, this is good. It's like the dream.
No, absolutely. It definitely is work, like, because I still edit it and that takes a long time. And
that's why I live edit, man.
Oh, smart. I do the multicam. Have you done the multicam?
No, I've only got, I could do 4 cams on here, but yeah.
I'll tell you about the multicam. It's a good little technique. So there's definitely a lot of work. And then because now we're full-time, now it's gone into like, okay, cool, now I want to be a bit more of a producer because last year it was like whatever shifts you were on at this agency. But now I'm like, cool, I can essentially spend a day figuring out who's coming to Melbourne and pre-planning and trying to get people on or trying to see if there are funny things that we can film outside of the show to sort of grow that universe out. So it feels like a job for sure, but one that I just love doing.
You love doing. And how quickly did you see your personal followers grow when you started to be a guy involved?
Well, I count them pretty religiously. I go, oh, nice. It felt like a slow start and then it hit a good point last year and then nothing over the off period. And it felt like that was kind of my level and I was pretty comfortable with that. And then since the show has started again, it definitely has taken a leap. And if I look at the numbers of, the views on videos on my own stuff, it has yeah, it's kind of blown me away, really.
But when you were off season, you were still making content.
Oh, I think Dan was. I had a very much see you later mentality.
You can't expect much.
No, exactly. No, but I was very fine with that. It's never, that's just, for starters, I think it would be unwise to go into a job wanting that to be your number one thing. So I just don't really care. But I'd be lying if I didn't say it's clearly a byproduct of, people thinking that you're doing well, so I definitely keep an eye on it and need to get better at posting. But I kind of feel more comfortable bringing out my own brand in the episode,
Yeah.
I just don't think I'm built necessarily to do the silly videos that Dan does. That's not my area. And so I like to just talk about things that I'm interested in during the episode, and that's kind of how I like to reach the people that might be interested in, following me or whatever.
Yeah, and when you're doing it full time, is there time for you to do your own show though?
Like just for me, jeez, I don't know. I mean, I will always want to do that again because I have loved it in the past, but all the shows that I have done have been, it's not been at all mine, if that makes sense. So like the Aussie Rules show felt it because I got to design the running order, but it was very much about the game and it was semi-serious because it was, for
proper telecast.
Proper TV. So it couldn't be exactly how I wanted it to be. But I reckon it's the first time in my life where I don't have a plan for what's next in a really healthy way. Like I just want to enjoy this for a little bit. And we'll just see where we can take it. And I genuinely love it. And it's clearly the one thing that has done the best. So just for the moment, thinking about anything like that is just like, I don't care. Like, this is where I need to be right now. Yeah.
It's because so many people, like, I'm going to do a podcast and they'll do it and they'll do like 15 episodes and they'll go, it was hard to build a fan base. It was hard to make any kind of money. This is too hard, and they never do it.
Yeah.
So when you strike one, you just got to run with it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that was always a big fear of mine. Like, I hated the idea of coming up with an idea, sort of doing it, let's be honest, a bit half-assed, trying to get all your friends and family to follow you, and then it dies off pretty quickly, and then the next month I'm popping up doing something completely different. And I definitely did that. And it was good to like hone your skills a bit. But I hate that feeling of just sort of doing it a little bit and then starting something completely new up.
Yeah, man. And you should just write it out and see where it goes.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think obviously I've got a podcast, but I think that this sort of medium is the most refreshing thing to happen to media in the last like 50 years.
Couldn't agree more. And even especially like this vibe here, like at the start of podcasts, like proper ones, it was like a radio show.
Yeah.
Like it still was just at, even now a lot of them are in radio stations. And so they might sound good, but it doesn't necessarily look good. And I think it's pretty clear some of the biggest podcasts in the world that like the numbers on people watching them is maybe even bigger. Yeah. And it is so refreshing. Like walking in here and I went, I don't want to leave this room. Like, this is so cool. And I feel like, I know what's in your brain right now. Yeah. I can just get you a bit more.
Yeah.
And it's totally refreshing.
Yeah. And I think that, look, commercial radio sort of became so shit that people really were like, oh, we don't want to listen to that. And then they realized hearing people talk is actually interesting if they don't have the parameters. And once you take away the advertising and all that sort of crap, that's people, they love it. They thirst for it.
Absolutely. And there's only a certain amount of, guess the secret sound you can listen to.
It didn't change for like 50 years.
No, it didn't at all. I reckon you give us 20 minutes and we'd be able to write a 3-hour breakfast show and go, we'll do secret sound. Then we'll do Battle of the Sexes. Perfect. Then we'll do this. And
It got played out really quickly.
It did. It did.
And I think that people wanted those, when you're listening to the radio back in the day, someone would come in and they'd talk and they just talk about their new song and that was it. You're like, you want to hear the interesting stuff, and that's what makes podcasts fucking good.
Absolutely. I will say this though. My mum now works on the ABC and it's a fairly, ABC kind of product. But growing up, she was definitely in the golden age of breakfast commercial radio. It was, like, I know that this is in Hobart,
Yep.
but their show, Kim and Dave, was massive. And I remember walking into that building, you know, after school or whatever, whenever it might be, just being like, this is the only thing I ever want to do for work. Because, like, you've got, you know, Dave, a co-host, goes, good to see you, mate. I'll be back in 10 minutes. I just have to go and do my crazy call. And he goes in, pre-records, hi, it's Roman Blinds here. You know, it's just, and I'm going, okay, that's great. Then there's someone dressed as a superhero handing out pies. They're wrestling over there. And Mum was never controversial at all. But they just spoke about whatever they wanted to, and it was so much fun. And
So you got a taste for it early.
Absolutely. Like, I loved what they did. It was and I still watch, like, it's filmed on, you know, the shittest little camera in 2006 even, but just on YouTube, and they're mucking around in, like, I think they're tipping Melbourne Cup horses by, you know, Dave's got a bunch of balloons and Mum's got darts throwing at him. And I go, I don't even know if you could do that now.
Nah.
Like, and
It's good.
It's so good. One went into his nipple. And he goes, that's in my body. That's in my nipple. And Mum's pissing herself and putting the ads on while laughing, and then they're spilling tea on the, you know, on the switchboard. But even that's fun, and not like right now we have to have a 1 hour OH&S, you know. So it did feel like a golden era that now it's not the same, but it's close, like doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the only thing is that that I don't like about these people that try to be too controversial for the sake of clickbait. That's I hate that.
Not everyone should have a podcast.
Yeah.
I think that's really clear to me.
Yeah.
Like, I also think from a really serious standpoint, it's opened up a world of danger to really vulnerable people. And I think it's clear to me that there's, like, a funny side of things that's hit, like, you know, sort of like influencers talking, and you know, there's maybe like a fascination with, you know, status and those sorts of things. But then on the flip side, there's also this really dangerous undercurrent that clearly hits men the most. That, you know, I don't know if you like these particular people, so no issues if you do. But, like, the shit that, like, people like Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan get on, it scares the living daylights out of me. Like, it's so accessible. And I mean, like, your Tucker Carlsons of the world in America, sure, they have had their mainstream media access, but I'm convinced a lot of them wouldn't be able to get on, you know, radio, generally speaking. So having that free access can be really great, the freedom of speech, but then it's also really scary. Some of the things that they're kind of, you know, making seemingly a really normal thing, and, you know, behaviour-wise and the way we speak and act towards women, it's just like, it's pretty shit that everyone's just got that access to it now.
There was an Aussie one that was shared around last week, which people were sort of having a, you know.
Were they the ones out in WA?
I don't know where they were, but it's look, everyone's allowed to have, and as long as you say something that doesn't really, you know, isn't totally wrong, then but I think what you're saying is, like, people that then they hear, all right, I look up to this person, they've got X amount of followers. If they believe that, then I'm going to be misogynistic too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? But a lot of the time they're actually like, listen to this podcast as education. Like, it's not even just subtle picking up on your favorite comedian that says, you know, a certain word that they shouldn't, but you've heard them say it so many times. Like, so many of them are like, hey, you want to live like me? This is how you do it.
Yeah.
And I find that terrifying. And then also, it's got to a stage now where the president of the biggest country in the world had been endorsed by 3 of the biggest podcasts that hit completely different demographics. And I would never have thought that a president would be thanking a podcaster in their acceptance speech or whatever. That is terrifying.
Yeah, but that shows the power of
Absolutely.
this new medium. You know what I mean? Like, people they're not going on TV anymore. They are, but they know that that's a redundant medium.
Absolutely. Yeah, God, yeah. It's Yeah, it is. It's wild. And I must say, one thing that would interest me in the future about doing my own thing is I still do want to have those conversations with those sorts of people that, I look at what you get to do and I go, that must be a really fun feeling, having a completely different discussion every week. Mm-hmm. And, I would have loved, in the recent election to have the chance to be able to speak with Albanese or Adam Bant, for example. Like, I would have loved that and breaking that cycle up. So that would be something that would interest me in the long-term future for sure.
Yeah. And then you mentioned before Tassie is going to come into the league in the AFL. So you're obviously pretty excited about that. Are you working with them on anything?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me the big question, which is, am I going to be a fan of the Devils or not? We have done a couple of bits and pieces, more so for the show, not just for myself, because I do work for the Saints properly. So I don't really know what the rules are around that. Actually, I think it's more, like Dan Does Footy as a brand has done some things with the Devils.
So what's your role with St Kilda?
So I'm their MC for home games, so they're ground announcer. But then I've done MCing events for, we had the rebrand of the logo, hosted a night there.
It's a subtle rebrand.
Well, you might say that. I think it was exactly what was needed. Great to get St Kilda on it for the first time, not STKFC, especially sponsored by Red Rooster, so you tell me. Then, the best and fairest, things like that. And then we've just started a series where I go on dates with the players at Red Rooster shops. So there's a few things involved. Oh yeah, it's all fairly normal stuff. Yeah. Dating or flirting with a St Kilda player and eating fried chicken is genuinely a job I was built for.
Yeah.
But then with the Devils, there's not a bunch you can do right now anyway, but I'm sure there'll come a time where I will want to move back there and that's the most obvious choice, to get involved there.
Man, their pitch with the marketing as far as $10 memberships, genius.
Mate, so smart.
So smart.
I don't think people realise how much an email address is worth, essentially. When sponsors start to come on board and they've got that database there, it's exceptional. And also people are it's only a $10 membership. And I'm like, yeah, but $10 for virtually nothing. Nothing. Yeah. I got a sticker. Yeah. I don't pay $10 for Tim Tam sometimes. Yeah. So the fact that you've gone over 200,000 people have gone, no, I'm giving you $10. It's pretty. Obviously it goes without saying that will be cut down when the proper memberships happen, but it shows how many people are there for support, because I can guarantee you the Giants or the Suns didn't get anywhere near that.
No, well, they didn't come up with that concept. It's a genius concept. But I guess, like you said, that sort of brings people in. And there's probably young people that are like, I moved here and I've come from this state or overseas. And they're like, I'll go for that new team.
Absolutely.
And they're the underdogs,
Well, exactly right. And I look forward to getting to a point where Tassie isn't seen like that. And it's just generally no, we are a powerhouse and we're bloody good at footy kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think for the right now, it very much will be everyone's second favourite team. And I think that'll work.
Yeah.
And we're the place that has deserved this for the longest, and it's great to see, and I think people will just be happy for them.
Yeah, because even in the heyday of the state of origin, there was a representation for Tassie.
Really? I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah,
I was little, but
Yeah, sure. It's
because they've had some amazing players.
Oh, we have done so much for Aussie rules. I mean, hell, as a Saints fan, we've only seen one flag, and guess who the captain was at the time? Darryl Baldock, Northwest Coast boy from Latrobe. And then obviously Rebolt. I don't want anyone claiming that Nick's from Queensland. I'll never be having that. He's a Tassie boy. But we had Jack Rebolt, Lynch, Matthew Richardson, and then it dropped off a little bit. There has been a bit of a down period. Oh no, Jeremy Howe, Alex Pearce, now captain of Fremantle. Now we've got some guys, I want to say Riley West at the Dogs, one of them. Seth Campbell at Richmond. It's starting to pick back up again. So it's his, Colby McKercher at North Melbourne. He's unbelievable. So it's pretty. We've done a lot.
Yeah. And you're not a tall guy. I'm not really a tall guy. We're not the tallest guys. But how cool is it to see the Wizard, someone who's probably about to act like smashing it?
You know what?
So good.
I'm actually going to go down a different path here. He pisses me off because growing up, everyone said, no, you're too small. And if I had a time machine and could say, what about that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Who I significantly tower over. That annoys me. I wish I knew. I definitely had been told that a bunch of times. But no, it is pretty good to see because he's an absolute weapon.
And the thing is, he's not just good for a small player. He's just good.
He's good.
Man, I saw him on the weekend. I think he took off one step and kicked it from 50. And I'm like, it doesn't matter how tall you are. That's very impressive.
Absolutely. No, he's a freak. Who was he playing on at one stage against Gold Coast? Who's their defender, Mac Andrews?
Andrew, yeah.
It looked ridiculous, but it's like, no, like he will happily go up against anyone. It's like, he'll just utilise his own skills.
The Gold Coast.
Yes.
You have been to the Gold Coast.
I have. Yeah.
You went there for the relaunch, the rebrand. What was it?
Yeah, what did they call that again? Rebrand, whatever. It was bizarre. It was the weirdest.
Was very Gold Coast.
Yeah, the actual event was extremely Gold Coast. So when we heard they had live animals, BMX stunt show, I think like fire twirlers, is that what you call them? Fire twirlers? Well, we just have to be going to this. But it was bizarre because we were sitting there at dinner the night before because it was happening when the sun was coming up.
Yeah.
So it started about 4:45 in the morning. It was ridiculous. So we were there for dinner and they had posted the bloody logo. I don't know if they changed their mind. It felt bizarre. Like we're coming out for this massive event and unveiling, but they had posted it the night before, so it was very weird. So I don't think there were as many people there because of it. Yeah. I don't know. It was quite strange. And then this was the best. They had a gigantic version of the Guernsey with like a robe over the top, and they couldn't get it off. And so the poor old CEO kept starting the countdown again. It was just awful to watch, but endearing at the same time. But that was quite cool. And then Dan had to go back to Melbourne, but we had flights. I had my flight the next day, and there was more of a corporate event that night at the casino. So I went to it on my own, and that was bizarre. It was just like hanging around with the players, then a bunch of people that didn't like football but, have been given these event tickets. Like, I met the worst bloke in the line. Mate, he sucked eggs. And he goes, how are you, bro? He's from New Zealand, and he's like, I think he called it like GAFL. And I was like, mate, we have moved past that. Yeah. About 20 years ago, brother. And he's like, nah, I'm a league man. Like, that's real sport. I'm like, what are you doing here? Anyway, so it was like a really bizarre combination of people. But then they had the fire twirlers, acrobats, a rapper, and a tap dancer next to a guy playing drums.
Who signed off on that?
And I was standing there with Lockie Weller with a 4X being like, nah, this is pretty good. I'm all in on this team. I'm into it.
And what did you think? What did you think of the actual rebrand? Because it was met with a lot of criticism.
Well, I still think the most obvious decision here is the logo needs to be yellow because I actually really, really like it. You just can't see it. And now I think we've seen as well, when you're up there on the coast and it's, sweaty and a bit humid, it's just you genuinely they kind of look like they're wearing training tops. Yep. But the actual logo itself, I think, is incredibly well thought out. Like, it's really layered. It's, I like it. So it's the shape of the footy. Then there's a sun there. Then there's an S in there involved. Like, I really liked it. I just think I would like to see it, if that makes sense.
And I think it will evolve. Like, a lot of these newer teams, like, that are the non-traditional ones, like your Collingwoods and and St Kilda and whatever, that don't deviate away, they will slowly evolve. And you'll probably find next year it is more noticeable, the logo.
I mean, even the tail end of last year, we had Gold Coast, St Kilda and Adelaide Crows with their rebrand, and they all followed a similar path, in terms of just, maybe not making it more American, but just a bit more friendly for online use. Like, say, for example, the St Kilda one, if you think about, it was a really big thing they got rid of that banner at the bottom because they were saying that even something as simple as stickers Like, it was really complicated to have two separate parts.
Yep.
So, like, it was a subtle change, but there were so many aspects of it that were just, like, making it simplified and a bit bigger and...
Bolder.
Yeah, bolder,
just like,
exactly, rather than just,
Yeah, I think Port Adelaide did a really good job a few years back when they went to the PA. You know?
True.
And I think that Freo, when they just got rid of the green and the red and just went the total purple, they seem to... It looks good as well.
It looks good, but I loved their old
Everyone
stuff. Like,
does. But that's that quirky kind of... You know,
Totally. They're like, anytime Freo are in town and you see someone wearing a scarf, they're never wearing the new one.
No.
It's always the old stuff with the green and the purple and, red. It was brilliant. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Bring more of that back.
we still don't have a team with green.
Not for long.
I see. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And I really like the names of the colours. It's like
Yes, there's Myrtle.
Myrtle.
Yep, there's Myrtle.
There's definitely Myrtle.
There's definitely Myrtle. We know that. Whatever the other two are, but I think it'll look really good.
Yeah.
The colours are great.
No, and the it's such a win that they got the Devil's name as well. Because if that didn't happen, it would have been
The fact that they had to, I don't know if they went to court, but have a proper discussion with Warner Brothers about that is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, Tassie don't have a lot of things, but we've got our Devils. Give us that, please.
Yeah.
We need to be able to use that name.
Because I don't know how much you're into your old NBL, but there was a Tassie Devils in the NBL in the 90s.
Yeah, well, I don't remember that so much. I grew up with the Hobart Chargers, and I don't think that they were in that division, but they were pretty popular. But I don't think I was around too much for the old Devils. But the Jack Jumpers throwback kits to the Devils are a thing of beauty. Like, I love them.
Yeah.
They do some good stuff, actually. But, yeah, the old Devils basketball Guernseys were unbelievable.
Yeah. There was the Devils, and I think there was the Canberra Capitals for a while who are no longer in the NBL. The NBL's had a whole lot of teams come and go.
And what did we have in Melbourne? It was the Tigers, I want to say.
It was definitely the Tigers and Melbourne Magic. I've got some Magic jackets out there, even though the Tigers
I'll have to have a look at that on the way out. That's cool as.
I've got it. But yeah, it was Tigers Magic. There was the North Melbourne Giants. The Nuttawading Spectres. There was a whole bunch of different teams in that sort of VBL.
Nuttawading were in the top, the NBL.
Well, it was the VBL, and I think it became the NBL. So Nuttawading, I think, became Southeast Melbourne.
Sure, yeah.
To have a wide, they were the Nuttawading Spectres, and that logo was pretty cool too.
And basketball in this part of the world, or this part of the city, is pretty big, is it? Like
down here,
yeah,
I guess so, man. There's definitely my son's only playing Auskick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Well, just when the Phoenix came in, I went, "That's a bizarre southeast Melbourne's like you're trying to claim a lot of land there."
Land.
But maybe it makes sense. I didn't really
because
realise.
there was this the Southeast Magic was supposed to be from there. The Melbourne was more the inner city kind of area. I don't know, man. They're just trying to catch as much catch. It's like the Western we were talking about before.
Yeah.
It's like they're just trying to get the biggest catchment you can.
Totally get it.
And even like with the when they went to Perth in the AFL, not calling them the Perth Eagles and calling them the West Coast Eagles opens you up to a lot of.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I think even like from a St Kilda's perspective, I know that the players didn't love it so much, but when the training facility was down in Seaford, it very much felt like we were claiming everywhere from St Kilda down the peninsula.
But you do get, man, I reckon there's probably more St Kilda fans down here than
do you reckon?
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Even just going up, when you go to Auskick, like all the kids have their branded stuff.
Yeah.
Because when you pay your
That's right,
membership, I see a lot of that. And you see heaps of St Kilda bumper stickers. They've always had this kind of Frankston Peninsula affiliation.
Yeah.
Because Moorabbin, I guess, maybe people
totally
moving further down this way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll tell you what, it's a good idea. I might need to come down here and go to a few of the op shops because I reckon there's half a chance there'd be some cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
Love
when
that.
you always see in the op shops that somebody's bought their membership 5 years in a row and then got all those hats and you see them in there. 2018, 2019, 2020.
So true. Love that. Yeah, bring it on.
But I do love the retro footy jumpers, man. You get into them?
Yeah, like which ones in particular? What's retro for you in the world of the AFL or VFL?
I love the woolen ones.
Oh yeah, that's not retro. That's ancient. Woolen.
The 90s.
Oh, they were an actual thing of beauty. Those ones. I do like you can get the replica ones of that era. It's not the same, but it's pretty good. Who was like a really good one? See, retro in my head, I'd go to like like Port Adelaide's first Guernsey.
Yeah.
That feels more retro-y
Which
rather
was
than
amazing.
vintage.
Yeah.
You know?
I love it when they do. There's that dude, I don't know who he is. I can't tell you off his top of his head, but he's just like the footy jumper guy. And I find that really
He's got the
interesting.
black hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always fine. And he'll be like, man, this one's actually a player-worn jumper from here, and you could tell by this. I'm like, he's nerding out, but I'm like, that's interesting.
That is so cool. I remember I met a guy in London who quickly became a massive fascination of mine. Like, not in a weird way, not in a Perth Bears way, but just in a... I couldn't remember meeting a cooler bloke who ticked off all the same boxes that I've got in my personality. So he was a massive NFL fan, but English, but absolutely loved the clothes. I got this through him. So he started just on Instagram, vintage retro NFL site. And it got so big that he then got a really, really cool warehouse, probably the size of this, and then a little bit out the back for the actual gear. And so I would go around and would have beers, and he would just disappear for like 4 days and go on a hunt and find just like match-worn stuff. It was bizarre. And then he'd go to America for like 2 months, and he'd come back and he just knew everything about, like, that's official, that's definitely a player worn, I know that. And then he'll be able to go online and do a bit of,
Op shop? Where is he sourcing them from?
literally from op shops. Yeah, that people, just don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I remember in England, I picked up an unbelievable St Kilda Guernsey from the 70s because it was clear as day that, some old bloke from Moorabbin's moved over for his English partner, and, then she's decided to sell it, in 2020, and she sold it for like $8. I was like, you sure? Like, okay. But this guy, this is bizarre we're even talking about this guy now, but he was into music theatre, and then I didn't talk to him for like a year, and then he is in the lead role of Back to the Future on Broadway.
On Broadway?
And I went, what? And then he became best mates with Aaron Rodgers when he was playing at the Jets because he would be able to source really cool old vintage stuff for him.
Wow.
And so there's just this footage of my mate on the sidelines dapping Aaron Rodgers up and then having a glass of tequila. Then he's going to Broadway, but he's selling all this like awesome old NFL merch. Bizarre. Weird man.
And he's from Australia originally?
No, London.
He's from
just
London.
from Peckham, southeast London.
So
Bizarre.
he's living the life.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool guy.
I love the way that he's sourcing them individually because I know that with a lot of that vintage stuff, people just buy the bales of whatever and they send them here. And like, okay, cool. It's still cool, but like the fact that you're going and picking them.
No, he does the whole, I'll dedicate a kind of holiday to going to a certain place and really getting stuck in and you know what it's like as well when you go to either a vintage store or an op shop, that I feel like if you don't understand it, you just don't understand it. When you find that piece, it's so exciting. It's exhilarating. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, that's in my size as well? Yeah. That is ridiculous. And it's $5 because no one knows how good this is. I love it. It's such a thrill.
I've always been, I've been a crazy op shopper for a long time, but whenever you go and find a vintage store and someone else's, I'll never do that. Pay $80 for a T-shirt that someone else has found. Because it's like you want to find it yourself. Yeah. You know?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the thrill.
It is. It's a thrill. But then you get into the territory of it's a necessity to have clothes. So I'm just going to have to bite the bullet sometimes because I can't find something in my size every time I go to the posh shop on Glen Huntley Road, Elsonwick. But
I used to go there a lot.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
There was a run of when I was living in St Kilda, a lot on Glen Huntley Road there.
There is actually. So there's one of
them. Still get old mate who plays the piano out the front.
The most intimidating looking fella in the world, but he's just not at all.
Music,
yeah, he's great. Yeah, the posh shop is pretty impressive. I'd be surprised if you didn't walk out of there with something. Yeah, it's decent.
I found some good 80s tracksuit tops in there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, kind of ones that people would have bought in the 80s. Yeah, and then they die. Yeah, and then I buy them. Yeah,
absolutely. They're really good for big winter coats too. Really good. And you still spend they know that those ones are probably a
No,
little
they
bit
put the
more
security
exposed.
tags on those
they
ones.
do too, yeah.
It's probably one of the only op shops I've been to that has security tags.
That's true. I mean, it's probably one of the only op shops I know of that have got 2 locations as well, because they've got the one at the
Down
other end of
further.
Glen Hutley Road. So, yeah.
Yeah, with more of like the tables and
Yeah,
all that sort of
furniture,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, man, I used to love that op shop run. I don't get enough time to do that anymore.
Bloody kids and job.
Yeah, and just real life
Work.
stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
no, try and delay that one for as long as possible.
I actually found one of those boom boxes at the Posh Op shop,
Oh, sick.
but there's a few up there.
See, I need more space. I'm looking forward to like when I'm a bit older.
How
and
old are you?
I'm 30.
Right. So you're still
And-
very young.
I'd like to think so. But I'm young in the context of like, I don't have space. Like, we've just got the smallest apartment. And so there are so many, like, there's probably nothing in this room that I wouldn't want to buy if I saw. But I was like, and then what? What am I going to do with it? So I've never really been able to live my life like that. It's so frustrating. So I cannot wait until I can have a bit more space one day and be like, yeah, let's do
Fill
some.
it with crap.
Because our mate, Ben, out the back of his place, I reckon that's the dream.
Yeah.
That is the dream.
It is. He's changed it a bit. The clam. He calls it. Yeah.
Love it.
He's changed it a bit, but yeah, that is the dream. To have that, like a big shed where you can have all your stuff. He had his
Essentially a bar in there.
bar in there. A lot of that stuff in there I've given him as well.
Really?
He
Yeah, okay.
sourced a lot of that shit from just free marketplace stuff.
Yeah.
But it's awesome.
No, it's pretty. I think it is a dream. It's right up there.
It's living the dream. If he didn't have 2 kids, we could have a drink there more
Yeah,
often. But it's hard
exactly
now,
right.
man. All right. Well, so you talk about sport a lot.
Yes.
On Dan Does Footy.
Yeah, quite a fair bit, turns out.
A lot, because it's even in the name.
Yes.
But if you had your own show,
Yeah.
Ollie Geale does stuff,
Yeah.
what would you talk about?
I like that. What would I talk about? I think my big thing, it's so broad and it sort of feels like a cop-out, but it's just comedy. Like, I think that's the thing that I'm the biggest nerd about. So English comedy throughout the years, there's still not a night that goes past that I don't fall asleep listening to the old Ricky Gervais shows from XFM, dating back to even the late 90s. Like, this is not the podcast. Like, there's just the recordings of their 1 till 3 Saturday afternoon
Carl
slot
Pilkington?
with Carl. But it goes to the stages where you don't have Carl, then you do, and then you've only got him like piping up every now and again. So then by the end, it's just his show. And so I've just got a real genuine fascination for that world. So I don't know what it would be, but I would love to. I would love to one day write something. I think that would be my pinnacle.
To write it?
Yeah, I think like my absolute probably my biggest idol out there would be Stephen Merchant. I am just obsessed with that guy in the way that he performs, but in the way that he writes. And it's been really clear to me as well since him and Ricky haven't really done a lot that I think he was what made them great. Like, obviously Ricky is a freaking funny guy. Like, in The Office, in Extras, he's really great. But I think the stuff that he's written post working with Stephen hasn't been as good as what Stephen's done. And
He's gone for the more sentimental stuff and more...
Yeah, but then even like I didn't mind Afterlife's script, but I think that it was really lazy, which is something I never thought I'd say about Ricky. Like,
The script or the execution?
the execution. So for starters, he has recycled cast members from really iconic roles that I'm just like, lazy. Like, this is just...
Well, he just wants to give those people work.
I guess, but like, you know, the beauty of the way that they were doing it when it was like 12 episodes and then a special was that those characters were only ever going to live in that world.
Yep.
And then now it's just like, you know, the guy who was Kev in Derek, he was first essentially that character like in it for 5 minutes in an episode in Extras. And then Ricky has, because it is a classic character, he's got him in every single thing, being the exact same person but called something different each time. And it's just quite strange. And then it felt like there was just 3 scenes in it. So it was like having a breakdown at work, going home and being sad, then having a bit of a redemption moment and an uplifting moment, then again and again and again. So it didn't resonate with me that so much. But then, you know, I was really impressed with the way Stephen went out and, you know, wrote and directed Fighting with My Family. With
I haven't seen that.
It's well worth a watch. Like it on paper, it sounds ridiculous. It's about wrestlers, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson's in it, and he would be like the one person that I probably wouldn't be rushing out to go and see in a film, but he's only sort of in it. And it's a true story about a family in Norwich. So, proper farming, you're right, talking like that kind of area. And they were obsessed with WWE and had their own fighting league that, 20 people would go to. But then the youngest kids, the brother and sister, tried out at the O2 in London to make the academy of the WWE, and the girl got in, and she went on to be a wrestler,
Really?
like in the big time. So it's in the same old style of those two. It's actually not what it's about. It's more of a, it's the vehicle that gets you there that we're talking about wrestling. But like, I don't like wrestling, but I love that film. So I thought it was a really interesting leap of faith in doing something a bit different.
Yeah, you've got good wrestling hair though.
That's true. I do look like one. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I'll give you that. But I would love to. I think that would be the biggest challenge and like stepping out of my comfort zone, but something that I would really want to do. Like I've always had a fascination. I don't think I'll get around to it, so I can tell you and you give the idea up. I love the idea of writing about a local soccer team. Like I've always had a fascination with small communities, and everyone's a character. I just pictured this, fantastic Italian link where, the Nonna's been, working in the canteen since the late 80s.
Very relatable to everybody in their own small town.
Exactly right. And but the jealousy of who's captain and who's not, and that kind of thing. I think there'd be, I don't know, I've got a bit of a fascination with it, so I'd love to give it a go.
Do you want to act in that stuff or just write
I'll
it?
give it a go.
Yeah, give it a go.
Yeah, I've definitely got acting chops. I was in, did you ever watch the show Glitch?
Yeah, I was an extra in that.
I was an extra in Glitch. What were you?
Guy, I was an extra guy in a cafe drinking a coffee.
Hell yeah. I was one of the, what was the town? Yorinda?
I never
remember?
watched it.
No,
yeah.
neither. But it was like, let's just say Yorinda Yabbies football team.
Oh, right.
And I was in the football team, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So no, I'd love to give that a go.
Give that a go.
Yeah, say yes to anything, mate.
Yeah. I fell into doing extras work, and then before you know it, I was doing heaps of them. But then, like, it's interesting. I found it fun for like 12 months, and I'm like, I'm over that, man.
Yeah, I mean, when I have done extra work, it's not glamorous at all. It's like long, shitty shifts, and you don't get a lot
You
of...
feel like you're an extras the show. It feels a lot like
It
that.
feels exactly like that. Turn up at 4 a.m. for a 10 o'clock start, but we don't really have a lot of room with you. And by the way, you can't eat the breakfast before the other people. And then when you are doing something, you're in the mud.
Yeah.
Like it'd be tough for sure.
Did you do Neighbours?
No, well, Tassie.
Oh, yeah.
Never got round to. Haven't done any of the big boys. Just mainly Glitch. I think there was a couple other things, but no. If anyone's listening and they want to, put me in something,
Some acting.
yeah, let's give it a go.
Yeah. And we said we wouldn't talk about sport, but I'm going to ask you about
Yeah,
sport.
absolutely. Yeah.
No, we talked about the AFL, or the NFL before, but that is getting so much more momentum. And I've been going, because I like getting drunk on a Monday, I've been going to NFL Super Bowl parties for the last 15 years. But it is really building some momentum here in Melbourne and Australia, isn't it?
That's so funny. I thought, we've got something in common there. But I like that you went for the 1 day a year. I was actually thinking last year, every Thursday, brilliant fun. Take myself off to the pub and watch it at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was never on my radar for like the longest time. And then I've always been one of those sort of people with sport that I feel uncomfortable if I was in any sort of social occasion with someone from a city or a state or a country that was like, do you follow it at all? Do you have a team? I hate not being able to say, I have an affiliation with these guys or what. So I was like, no, it's getting a bit silly now. So I picked Minnesota, and I absolutely fell in love with the sport. I never thought, because I actually looked at it and I thought, growing up, I was like, looks like NRL a little bit, but just American. But it's not. Actually, such an awesome sport. I love it.
Yeah, and it's like when they do, like there is a lot of downs and whatever, but when they catch that big throw, it's exciting, man.
It is, but other than that, the thing that got me into it was someone was explaining it to me as like it's violent chess. And I went, okay, yep, that's doing something up here. And then you start to realise how talented they are to learn the plays with codes and they're guessing what the defense is going to do kind of thing. It's pretty incredible. So for me, even like a bit of a boring game can sometimes be quite exciting because it's just like watching, literally like a game of chess, being like, what are we going to do here?
Yeah. And as someone who's a bit of a sport junkie myself, I love having sport on in the AM. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's genuinely perfect. Yeah. It's so what do we get? Like Thursday? We get a Thursday game, then Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's good.
There's actually such a good sweet spot where I feel like every sport I'm interested in is on at the same time. It only goes for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's like the Premier League, the AFL, like I think it's like the last week of finals.
Yeah.
The NFL start.
But there's that real sort of perfect window where it's still daylight savings or not daylight savings,
Yes.
and then the EPL games are a bit earlier.
Oh, mate, and 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Are you kidding me? That is. Oh, yeah, that is a real dream.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was what I've spent a little bit of time in the past in WA, and like, man, the footy's on there on a Friday night at like 5 o'clock, and that's hard to get used to.
Well, it's also, it only just clicked. There was a game not long ago. I think West Coast played Brisbane in Brisbane, and it was a 1-10 game, which meant it was like
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock in the morning.
They've got to
couldn't
help
comprehend getting up and having breakfast. I mean, like, right, let's get stuck into it.
Yeah.
I need like 5 hours to get ready. you know?
I know.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that they said with Australia that's prohibited us from getting like the World Cup and all that sort of stuff because of just the televisation times and all that sort of shit.
Yeah, I don't know though. We've had. I mean, South Korea had the World Cup. We're on virtually. I don't know. I was pretty. I remember when the Qatar was announced. The year that we were supposed to have it, I was mortified because I feel like as a soccer fan in Australia, I'm never really going to have the expectation that we're ever going to win the thing. So that's like the closest thing it feels like you can get.
Yeah,
is to have it here.
Yeah,
I was just
It is a shame because I've really felt like when we qualified in 2006 that was the beginning. Like it's going to put it on the national radar. Kids are going to grow up wanting to be a Socceroo. We're going to really, and it was like. It's kind of like we almost peaked there.
Yeah, well, what I would say is that is the case, but then from the Matildas side, it's the complete opposite. I could confidently say right now, because, international teams are hard because,
everyone's different.
Yeah, and you don't get to see them a lot. But I reckon, gun to my head now, I'd be able to name more Matildas than Socceroos. That, like I could probably get the starting lineup, which is it's pretty awesome to see. So, like, having the Women's World Cup here was exceptional. It was so much fun. Yeah. And seeing what they've been able to do has definitely kicked off to another level for sure.
Yeah, and I think that the most viewed sport match was Matildas versus the
England
English
game.
Team.
Yeah.
And for that to be a women's sport is great.
Oh, it's amazing. And, like, even to have in that moment an iconic Sam Kerr goal that was like a Tim Cahill moment, was like just as good. It was great. So no, I'm wrapped for what the Matildas are doing. It's awesome.
And how sick's the new uniform, man?
Mate, we don't really tend to miss because I love the old spew jerseys that they did. I thought they were beautiful.
That definitely was like a reference point you can tell for this new one. Like,
God, yeah,
let's
absolutely.
make it pretty fucking loud.
Absolutely, yeah. Give it a crack. And then also when they really strip it back, I even think their more conservative ones are really nice when it's just like essentially all yellow, but then with a green collar. Perfect. Yeah. Like, it looks really, really classy.
You say we never miss 2010 with that hockey one. That wasn't great.
Oh, that was terrible. So it had the white in the middle, didn't it? Yeah, that was a shocker. I'm sorry to apologise. That was a shocker. But the good thing is about the international teams is we don't play enough. So I feel like you can just bring out heaps of Guernseys. Like, it's not like when, I'd be, Arsenal's new one's brought out and I go, oh no, I have to watch my team every week, twice a week for a whole year in this. It's that's annoying. But then at least with this, it's like, well, we don't have a major tournament this year, so that's fine. We'll just see it in friendlies.
Yeah, so when is it? I think there's a qualifier in June.
We'd be coming up. Yeah, we'd definitely start to have to take note of it. It really is, for me, there's just so much sport on that I only really take notice of qualifiers when it's on. It's like, okay, cool, it's tomorrow, cool. Where are we at? Yeah. And always keep, tabs on where the guys and girls have been going, in their domestic leagues. But, it would be about June.
Yeah, and we've also got the NFL's doing some, what's it called? Like exhibition games, NBA, and I think NHL maybe as well.
That would be really cool. Who have we got? So it's definitely the Rams. Trying to remember who they're playing. But that's going to be great. The only thing is, I've been to soccer games at the MCG and it's just not it. It's cool that there's that many people there, but it just won't work.
You almost feel like it'd be better to have it at Amy Park with just 33,000 people packed out and you're sort of close.
Especially for... It is an exhibition game, isn't it? It's not for points,
I don't know. I'm not sure.
If it is just an exhibition, like it's just pre-season, I actually think that would be great. But the reality is 33,000 versus 100,000 people. The powers that be will always opt for that one. But I hear what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, I just feel like that would be... Anyway.
If the NHL come... Where would be the biggest rink in Australia? Because in Melbourne's...
Nah, they've done other exhibition games before. They just do it at Rod Laver.
Wow, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Have you seen how they do that?
No.
Man, I watched... This is the power of the internet. I was just so curious. I'm like, how do they go from Madison Square Garden or somewhere where you've got the Knicks play and then you've got the Islanders or whatever? Yeah. And man, it's crazy, the process. I'm not going to try and break it down for you, but it's super interesting that they can turn that around in 24 hours.
Yeah, that is I even get impressed when I rock up for a Saints game and I know that the Bulldogs were playing there the night before and all the flags have been changed over. So doing that is that's pretty good.
I think they keep from memory, I think they keep the ice underneath and they build the floor on top of it. But still, it's crazy. Yeah,
we've entered into a new... Well, with that, when the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium opened up, I went there for a NFL. I don't even know what they call it. Just not an exhibition game, just an exhibition. So they had a few players come over and do clinics.
Expo.
Yeah, expo with kids and stuff. And I remember it was very, very cool. Got to walk out on the ground. And I was like, where does the in context of football, I was like, where does the manager sit? I can't kind of get my bearings as to where I am. And then I just noticed that I was about 10 metres lower than where the managers sit. And they go, yep. So watch this video. This is how they do it. And just watching the ends of the stadium go out. And then it's just a conveyor belt. And the soccer pitch goes underneath. And then that gets extended and then lowered. And then all of a sudden you got an NFL pitch that's a lot longer.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
And the beers there flow from the bottom. I do find that quite cool.
Yeah, I remember first seeing a video of that and I couldn't get my head around it, but it's like a valve that sort of pops up through the bottom.
Yes. Yeah, I still can't get my head around it. Yeah, no, it gives me anxiety to think about too much, but it's cool to look at. For sure.
For sure. Do you want to tell us about what's coming up for you and what's coming up for Dan Does Footy in the future as we get close to wrapping it up, man?
Absolutely. Well, we have been dabbling with live shows and we really enjoy them. So we've definitely got one coming up in... I don't know when it is, but I think hopefully in Adelaide, which should be fantastic. Really, really great fun. So it's,
They love their footy in Adelaide.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. We're there for gather round. I learnt that pretty quickly. So, yeah, there'll be some live shows, and I think the big thing would be to, go on YouTube and have a look at what we do there, because we're starting to really build that ecosystem out where it's not just the podcast. It's, if we've spoken about something, I think the other day I said I could easily kick 40 metres, so we went to Gosh's paddock and filmed it, and, so there's some stuff going, and kicked it, so not a
Drilled
problem.
it.
Just,
Just first
well, got it in. I'll sit with that because unfortunately there is video evidence of it, so I can't talk it up too much.
Check it out on the YouTube channel.
But yes, there's lots of that. And then as for me, outside of that, please come mostly Sundays to the Saints. And, mate, you just go check out the Red Rooster activations. They go off.
They go off.
Oh, CMC Invest at 3/4 time, Red Rooster at quarter time. It's nothing better.
Man, sounds like you've got a lot on, and I'll be keen to jump on and have a look, because I haven't checked out much of the YouTube, so I will, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get a bit of a sense of the set and, have a look. That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Ollie, thanks for coming in, man. You're a legend, and I appreciate you taking the time.
No, I appreciate you, mate. Good on you.
Cheers.
1,000.